exactly what the number is because the government kept shifting the number. But it's basically the FBI at one point had said that the mortgage company I owned had done like $40 million in mortgage fraud. But keep in mind too that it's misleading because if you have a $100,000 loan on a piece of property that you bought for $110,000, there's no real dollar loss. So they're counting that as $100,000 in fraud. Well, I didn't get any of that. So the mortgage company, they were saying at one point they were threatening that they were going to charge me $40 million in mortgage fraud on for the mortgage company that I owned, and there's multiple frauds. So the numbers really that I'd always kind of heard was 15 million, but 11 and a half, 12 I've heard 26. Somebody was throwing around 26, so, but 12's good.
12 is good.
I didn't see 12.
Yeah.
So, it's misleading.
So what was your plan with all of this in the beginning? What inspired all of this, and what did you envision?
How do you get into that? Because you're probably doing.
What was your
You're
long-term
probably running a legit
plan?
business first, or is it
I was
just
just thinking about that on Batman, the Joker, when he says, "Do I look like I have a plan? I'm just a dog chasing a car. If I caught it, I wouldn't know what to do with it."
Yeah.
No, I mean, I had no plan. I opened a mortgage company. I was a mortgage broker. I was I got a degree in fine arts.
Were you a legit mortgage broker at any point?
Man, I mean, initially I went into it. I got my license. I was going to be a mortgage broker. I started being a mortgage broker. I had full intentions of being a legitimate mortgage broker. My very first loan. I go into my manager's office. We lay the file down. She goes through it, and she pulls out one piece of paper and sticks it to the side. I don't really necessarily even know what fraud is or even how you would go about committing fraud.
Right.
I'm just trying to close loans. She does it, and she goes, "Okay, it's perfect." And I go, "Well, what?" She goes, "Well," she goes, "You didn't even look at this, did you?" And I went, "No." She goes, "This is a verification of rent, VOR."
Right.
And I went, "Okay." She goes, "This girl was 30 days late about 11 months ago on her rent." And I went, "Oh, jeez, I didn't even notice that." And she goes, "Yeah." And I go, well, "Oh my God." So I'm thinking right now, based on an underwriting guideline, she doesn't get a loan. And she goes, so she pulls out some whiteout, undoes it, and she goes, just go ahead and get rid of it, make a copy of it, and we'll put it back in the file. It'll be fine. And I
You
went,
guys can stand
No.
alone.
yeah. And I said, well, that's fraud, right? And I go, that's fraud. And she goes, keep in mind, like Ford Motor Car is looking for my truck. My credit cards have been shut off. I mean, I'm behind on my mortgage. I mean, I'm in dire straits. So, she said, look, worst that's going to happen, underwriting catches it. She goes, and maybe you get fired. Maybe they just don't close the loan. She said, nobody's going to jail. And I went, she said, do what you want to do. She said, nobody's looking for my car. And so I grabbed it and I whited it out. I made a copy, stuck it in, sweated bullets for about 5 days. 5 days later, boom, the loan's ready to close. I go down there. The girl signs the paperwork. I get a check for $3,500.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm ecstatic.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, $3,500. I'm like 29 years old. That was a ton of money that got me back on my feet. And the next thing you know, I'm closing 4 loans the next month. I'm closing 6 loans the next month. The next month it's 8, then it's 10, then it's 12. They make me a manager of the Brandon office, and then that mortgage company got shut down. It had been maybe 6 months. And keep in mind too, at that point, when I kind of realized what's going on, it got to the point where you walked in and it's like all the numbers work, but you only made $45,000 last year. But if you made 55, I could get you a loan. So, I mean, it's
Right.
not
So
like,
you just put 55.
yeah, change the W-2. I have a degree in fine arts. I changed the W-2. I send it in. I pray that they're not going to ask any specifics when they call to verify the employment. Keep in mind, the verification of employment comes to me. I change that to say 45 or to say 55, just like the W-2.
Yeah.
It closes and boom, it closes. There's a check for $3,000, $4,000.
At that point, it just seems too easy then, right?
Wow.
It's
It
just
does.
like
and
Too good to be
no-
true.
Right. Nobody's
in that industry.
right.
So many people were doing it.
Yeah.
That was pre financial crisis. So
Right.
this is back in like 1999, 2000. So I'm like 29 years old, and By the time I opened up my own mortgage company, if you walk through the door with a pulse, I'm getting you a loan.
Yeah.
You got a house, you want that, you don't have your down payment, I got it. We'll take care of that. You wash cars, you've never claimed taxes. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Don't worry, I got you.
We'll slam this loan.
Yeah. If I pull your credit, it's questionable, I can get you in a house. I
Yeah.
got you.
Wow.
I mean, just to get them in there, and maybe they make a few payments, maybe they make all the payments.
Right.
So that's the problem, is that's a mortgage, that right there, if that's a $200,000 loan, well, that's $200,000 in fraud. I only got a broker fee at that point.
Right.
But what happened was, very quickly, I ended up with a staff underneath me that were just guys doing that. So we're all rehabbing houses. We're buying houses in Ybor City, Tampa Heights. We're fixing up houses. We're selling those houses. We're getting our own people loans, and we're committing, a massive amount of mortgage fraud. I mean, at one point I probably had 14 guys working for me. It was always in between like 8 to 14, and there was really only like half a dozen of them that were any good anyway.
Right.
And what's funny about it is, like, most of the guys that worked for me all still work in real estate. Like, they're all around.
Really?
Oh yeah. So I'll see somebody. I remember I saw somebody who was on my indictment. This is when I was in the halfway house. A girl that was the best broker I'd ever had. She was amazing. And I saw her. I was in the halfway house. I was on my way to work. Pull in behind her in Dunkin' Donuts, and she looked right at me. She looked right in the mirror. She does this. Keep in mind, she's thinking this guy's getting out of prison in 2030. So I'm not supposed to be out of prison. So she does this. Does one. I can see her. She's got the mirror right here, and she goes like this, and then she backs up like she's hiding from me. I'm still staring right at you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're staring at me, I'm staring at you. So I'm looking at her like, what's and I kind of I do this to her, and she goes, and I mean, it's just she didn't. I thought she's going to get out of the car. She's going to say, hey, what's up? How are you? Nothing. Of course, she also is like the manager of a bank, and you certainly don't want to be associated with me if you're the manager of a bank.
Hell no.
And you're also listed on an indictment that you just were never prosecuted for.
Oh shit.
Right. So, I've got all these people that are around that are like, hey man, what's going on? How's it going? What's going on? And they all want to hang out and talk, but
Yeah.
only to varying degrees.
Yeah.